Hello everyone, you are watching Story Rush, and in this video, I am going to cover two extremely horrible incidents. And it was really painful, you know. Although both the incidents take place on different timelines, but one thing is similar between the two. Miscalculation, STERKFONTEIN Cave. It was September 29th, 1984. Cave explorer Nuno Gomes was exploring an unmapped section in STERKFONTEIN Cave, which is in South Africa. With Nuno Gomes, he had two friends, Peter and Malcolm, and all three of them decided to put a guideline inside the cave, from the entrance of the cave to its end point, where no one had ever gone, right? And Nuno's plan was that he would go inside the cave alone with the guideline, while Peter and Malcolm would wait outside on the surface to assist him. Nuno enters the water with the guideline and goes ahead. There were multiple small different passages on the way. Like there is a Swiss cheese infrastructure. Like Swiss cheese has its own unique hole, such ways where anyone can be easily forgotten. Finally, Nuno reaches the end of the cave, and he successfully put the guideline. He covered the exact distance of 395 feet. Nuno now goes back to the surface to bring both of them inside the cave. Until now, all three of them, Nuno, Malcolm and Peter, had successfully entered the cave with him. And there was a small air pocket at the end of the cave. Its name was Miller Hall, where all three of them could remove their air masks and breathe easily. All three were very happy, because they had successfully mapped an unexplored section on the cave. For them, it was like an uncharted territory, and they were the explorers here. But the problem starts from here. Now all three of them start returning to the surface, in which Nuno was at the front, Malcolm was behind him, and finally, Peter. Suddenly, in the middle of the way, Malcolm touches Nuno's feet from behind and tells him that Peter is not behind us. He has disappeared somewhere. Hearing this, Nuno turns back, and after looking back for a few moments, he sees a glimpse of Peter's flashlight. So he hits the wall with his hands and signals Peter. Says, "Come here, the way to get out is from here." And saying this, Nuno and Malcolm both start going out. On the way, Nuno looks back again. He sees that Peter has not come here. He has disappeared. So he thinks, okay, Peter might come out from the other passage, this passage, which was relatively wider than the passage they were going through. And thinking this, Nuno and Malcolm go towards the exit of the cave. But when they reach the surface, they realize that Peter has not come here. They both wait here for an hour, but Peter does not come here. Forcibly, they have to take a new air tank and go back into the water to find him. They search all the areas near the guideline, and they also go a little far from the guideline to search, in different passages. Unfortunately, they could not go far from the guideline. Otherwise, they would have forgotten themselves. After searching for 4 hours in a row, they could not find any sign of Peter. And by now, they had run out of air in the air tank. And you know, due to their search, all the water in the area had become silted. That is, the visibility had become very low. Almost zero. If you go into the water, you can't even see your hands. That's it. They come out of the cave. And finally, that evening, they call the emergency team. The fire brigade comes there, but they did not have the expertise of cave diving, so they have to wait even longer to come to the divers team of the police department. The search continues. But again, all the water was silted. There was no visibility. They could not find Peter, and they stopped the search. Interestingly, the rescue team was convinced. After so many hours, they were not looking for Peter. In fact, they were looking for his body. But no one realized that Peter is not dead. In fact, he is alive. He entered the secondary tunnel through the side track, towards the top. He wanted to see how far he could go with this money. Of course, it should be a thrilling moment for him. And you know, the cave was complex, 3D structure type, combined with multiple passages. Basically, Peter was forgotten. He did not have a guideline, the water was silted out, it was completely dark, and it was nearly impossible for him to orient himself. In such a situation, he tries many small ways to go out, but all his attempts were failing, and the air in his air tank was also running out. He keeps pushing himself to get out, and finally, he reaches a room where a big air pocket was present. His first option was to wait here, so that the rescue team comes here and saves him. Right. He throws the torch in the water, so that the rescuer gets a signal from its reflection. But in the end, he also turns off the torch, so that his battery can be saved. He also tries to make noise by hitting his tank with a stone, but no one was getting its signal. Eventually, he was exhausted and he sleeps there. And with this, he had also lost his time track. I mean, he was not able to get a reference of time, whether he slept for 10 minutes or for 10 hours. Unfortunately, the water of the cave was silted, and it was taking a lot of time to settle in the water. No visibility, and it was not a good idea to search for the rescue team in such a situation. And earlier, as I said, the rescue team was convinced that Peter is dead, and now they are only looking for his body, so they decide to wait for a whole week, so that by then, all the water silts settle in the bottom, and then the search starts again. The second week passes, and then they search again. But still, there is no news of Peter. Surprisingly, Peter was still alive. He had spent the whole day in complete darkness. Although the water of the cave was drinkable to a limit, and the air was also present in the air's pocket, in the hope of getting out of himself, he comes out of the chamber and tries to go in a passage where the water was not present. In that passage, he was going up to another place, and finally, after walking 120 feet of Peter, he reaches the end of the passage, where there was a dead end. Basically, the way ahead was closed, so he comes back to the same chamber, again waiting for the rescue team. He had no option other than this. He had run out of oxygen in his oxygen tank, so that he could swim in the water, and also, the police continue to search for him. They come here for 4 weeks, but unfortunately, they never find him, and finally, the search is called off, without any result. Surprisingly, Peter was alive inside. He was regretting the decision to leave his guideland. If he had not been separated from his friends, he would not have been facing this situation. His 25-kilogram burden had been reduced. He was in complete darkness for weeks in the dark, and in pure silence, and this was no less than a torture for him. Because studies show that a person starts hallucinating and starts losing his sanity if he stays in complete silence and in no visual stimulation. Hunger is a traumatic state, and with it, without any light, without any sound, without any social interaction, you can't imagine how it would be for him. He was suffering minute by minute, because of a silly mistake, of course. So after a few days, Nono and Malcolm come back to the cave with some volunteers to search for Peter. So actually, STERKFONTEIN cave is very big, but most of its parts are dry, and that specific part which was wet, that was where Peter was. So Nono and Malcolm start looking for a connection between the dry cave and Peter's wet cave, and fortunately, they find that connection. And after a few hours of hard work, they connect their own cave with the wet cave. Finally, they enter the wet cave. There they find Peter's footprints in the passage, and on the way, they find Peter's footprints. And on the way, they find Peter's dead body, and there was a sentence written on the wall. "I love you, shirt and mother." Probably, Peter had realized that he can't live anymore. That's why he wrote this. Peter's facial hair had grown a lot, and it can be assumed that he lived here for many weeks. And from the autopsy, it is also clear that he had hypothermia. And finally, he died of starvation. Later, it is also discovered that actually, a rescue diver had gone very close to Peter. Although, we can criticize that why Peter had to take another route. He is responsible for it. But we should respect the fact that he fought his life struggle till his last breath. And maybe the rescue team also made some mistakes. After this incident, Nuno Gomes further dived into another dive site and made multiple records. In fact, he wrote a book in which he also mentioned the story of Peter's tragedy, КНОХ mine disaster. It was the 22nd of January, 1959. The deposition of 13 sites was very high. Like, this is a type of coal, but this coal is 6 times more valuable. Right? After World War II, the demand for this coal increased drastically, which led to rise in employment rate. Like, more than 10,000 people used to work in different mine sites in this area. But you know, where corporate companies rise, moral value, ethical standards become less important for them. They only prioritize profits and nothing. That morning, 81 workers went inside the mine, including Frank, Samuel, and a surveyor, Joseph Estilla, whose job was to inspect the mine, follow safety standards from the workers, and map the new routes in the mine on a regular basis. Anyway, when Joseph enters the КНОХ mine, and was walking towards his corridor. A miner's voice was heard from another corridor behind him. The one who was running was coming towards him and was telling everyone to get out of here quickly. And when Joseph looked back, more people were coming towards him, and he couldn't understand what he was saying. And just in a moment, he saw a wave of water coming towards him, and its water level was rapidly rising. See, if we look at the map of the Knox mine, it is a very interesting mine, which is like a maze. Actually, it is a maze where you will easily get lost. In fact, the depth of this mine goes up to 100 feet. And interestingly, a river flows over this mine. Susquehanna River. The river's past was not that good. Due to this Susquehanna River, there was a deadly flood in some towns, and the river flows over it. You got my point. If you are thinking that it is illegal to mine under the river, then no, it is wrong. Mining under the river is completely illegal. But for this, the coal company has to take some precautions. They had to be careful that they don't get too close to the river while digging. They had to go till the safe area, but the Knox Mine Coal Company completely neglects this thing. They had to extract as much anthracite as possible from this area. They had to make profits, and at a very minimum, it was safe for them to go close to the river for 11 meters. But they go a little more till 2 meters, and due to this, the upper ceiling collapses, and instantly, millions of gallons of water start coming inside the mine. And as fast as the water of the river was coming inside, initially, the whole of the ceiling was small, but now it rapidly expands. And soon enough, its diameter becomes 100 feet plus. It was like a silent whirlpool. That whirlpool, which was absorbing the huge debris inside itself. There were still 45 people inside the mine who had to come out. But the problem was that it was very difficult to orient any worker inside the mine. They could forget everything. There were so many chambers and tunnels which were not updated in the map, and such companies do this to avoid legal trouble. But in a group of 33 miners, Joseph Estella was also there, and he had good knowledge of the map. Plus, there was a person named Amadeo who actually informed these people about the incident inside the mine, climbing 50 feet above the shaft, including Frank and Samuel. And according to the SCR, it was likely that they were alive, but it was impossible for them without stopping the river water from going inside. And soon enough, they start dumping in the whirlpool. Mine cars, railroad cars, hundreds of bales of hay so that the ceiling inside closes. And finally, in 2 days, a total of 38 gondola cars, more than 200 mine cars, huge rocks are filled in the truck and dumped in the river. Utility poles, railroad ties, like anything else, everything is dumped inside. And interestingly, 30 to 40% water flow is reduced inside the mine. But as time goes by, the rescuer understands that the situation of those 12 people would not be good inside. In fact, a miner also tells the press that he saw 3 dead bodies inside the mine flowing in the water. And after calculating the speed of water and the amount of water, it was likely that those 12 people would still be alive. Yes, the official update was that there is almost no chance that those 12 miners will be alive, because there is no high point inside the mine where they can safely go and survive for 3 days. But there was a good news in this. After 3 days, they finally stopped the river water from going inside the mine. The rescuer now starts removing all the water from the motor pump. Strangely, even after removing all the water from the mine, they never find the dead bodies, including Frank and Samuel. Later, a dam is built at that place to separate the river water from the collapsed part, and the part where the ceiling was broken is sealed with concrete. Coming to the inquiry part, the investigation reveals that 9 days before the incident, a mine inspector gave a warning, but the Knox Mine Coal Company used to have light drips, and that's why the workers used to wear raincoats. And it's not the workers' fault, because a person with a good mindset will never do such a thing. It's the fault of the company that forced the worker to remove the coal from that area. The mine was flooded due to the illegal malpractices of the Knox Mine Coal Company, and as a result, 12 people died. Out of 81, the Knox Mine Coal Company was shut down, and because of this, everything changed in Pennsylvania. Tragically, no compensation is given to the family members of those 12 people by the company. Even after 4 years of the incident, Amedeo gets the Carnegie Medal because he saved the lives of 33 workers by alerting the workers, and he never finds any compensation, like it was a horrible disaster. I apologize for ending today's story so quickly, and this is my mistake. Please do subscribe if you think this video deserves a single like from your side.